Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show on this Friday. I'm Peter Martin. Thank you very much for joining us on the programme. Alan Ruff is alongside me, and I'm delighted to say Alison McConnell of the Herald and Times joins us in the studio. Here's what we're going to be talking about. Just some of the headlines we'll be discussing, and of course looking ahead to the weekend's football, starting of course with Aberdeen against the Rangers. I'm going to head to Edinburgh, have a wee bite to eat, wee bit of pasta, Ruffy, and then straight into the game. That's exactly how you should do it in Edinburgh, is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think it is going to be an exciting game. I think it's going to a lot of riding on it, particularly for Rangers. You know, everybody's now latched on. They can't afford to lose this, can't afford this. So it's a big pressure game for the players. So I think the manager will be hoping they all turn up.
Yeah, well, the fans will turn up. They're on a high. Morelos, 2023. Now, forgive me for being cynical. Great piece of business by Rangers, because basically they've got a top drawer striker on a longer term deal, so they can punt him for more money in the summer, Ali.
Absolutely. It's an insurance policy, isn't it? It simply means that whenever someone comes in from, as we inevitably expect it this summer, that you can hike the price up a bit because he's got a long-term deal. I think it's good business all round. It's good for the player. He has the security. It's a no-brainer for him. He gets a bumper new contract, and if a club wants you, there's no deterrent whether you've got a long-term deal or not. And given his form, I think 28 goals this year, 22. He's an internationalist. I think they'll be interested in him regardless, and that way Rangers are guaranteed of making a few quid on him. Yeah,
I mean, I'm getting constant. Reminded of other players. For me, he's my player of the year at the moment, unless there's a late surge all the way through the month of March. Is there anybody nicking that award from him?
I think Callum McGregor, for me, might be in with a shout. I know he's been injured the last few weeks and he's missed some games. I think Callum McGregor had played every single Celtic game from the first qualifier in July right up until February. I thought he was excellent. I think his versatility shone for Celtic. I think his professionalism, his ability to just really make Celtic tick. And I actually think in recent weeks you missed him. I think Celtic missed him. I think he would possibly be in with a shout for it. I can understand why people would look towards Morelos simply for the goals. I think goals are what it's all about, isn't it? People that put the ball in the back of the net are always at a premium, and I think there's always an eye-catching element to that too. But for me, I think possibly McGregor for me.
Yeah. Have we missed anybody else, Ruffy?
Well, that's a shame, because that's the only two we're talking about. Yeah. There's nobody else at any of the other clubs has staked a case to be included in these ones. But as you're saying, sometimes the voting comes at the wrong time or the right time for some players. Yeah. So we've got I know it's hard, because I'd like to wait until after cup finals and the league's won and all that carry on. I think that the manager of the year is the worst one of the lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're voting for a manager of the year and the season's not even finished. But that's the case, and we've had a few surprises in that one over the years.
Well, and it's great that Neil Lennon is back at Celtic, because that's the surprise you're talking about when they do the Oscars and you're a loser, you've got to go. But Lenny, when he lost it to Mixu Patalainen, let rip. It was absolutely classic Neil Lennon. Nevertheless, you can lose with dignity or have a few scoops and be raging about it. Now, as far as the game's concerned at Easter Road, I just wonder about this one. I think it's going to be a cracker, Ruffy, but the last three have ended in draws.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think Hibs will be hurting a wee bit for the Celtic game. They thought after the first half they had a wee chance, but Celtic upped it as they usually do. So I think it all depends on the start of this game. Obviously Hibs would want to try and score first to put a wee bit of pressure on. But no, I think this will be back and forward game. I don't think there'll be any of the two of them want to sit and try and get a point out of this one. The two of them will go for it.
Yeah, I've predicted a draw. What have you gone for?
I think I went for Rangers 2-1.
Yeah, Ali, 6 first-team Hibs players not available for Heckingbottom through injury or otherwise. Does that influence your call?
It certainly does. I thought I was through Easter Road on Saturday night for the cup tie, and I thought Hibs were poor. I thought they sought to contain Celtic rather than really ask any questions of them. And you've become accustomed these days to Hibs going and posing questions of Celtic and Rangers. I thought it was quite an inept showing overall. I didn't think they really troubled Celtic at all. And I do think when you have key players out, if you don't have the depth in squad, then it shows when you're missing players. I think Rangers will come through it tonight. I think they'll win. I think they'll win because they have to win. But I think you could probably class every game for them between now and the end of the season. There's 10 league games left. I think you could possibly say they've got to win every single one of them. I think this season, I'm not sure if Rangers have won more than 5 consecutive league games, so you're really looking at them now to do something that they've not been capable of doing for the entirety of the season. But I think sometimes when you're under that bit of pressure of knowing that if you slip at all, it's probably your last chance, sometimes brings out the best in a team.
Okay, Rangers to win?
I think Rangers will win tonight.
Okay. Now, as far as the game of the day tomorrow, Ruffy, I don't think there's any doubt about it. Celtic Park, Celtic against Aberdeen. Interestingly enough, Neil Lennon today mentioned a man that I think we'd all forgotten about, Marvin Comper.
Played a development game on Tuesday. I went to see it, and his attitude was excellent. Scott Allen played in that, and Bayo. I was really pleased with what I saw from the senior boys as well as the younger players as well. So, at the minute with the squad being stretched for injuries, it's good to have bodies, and those guys are getting a little bit of match fitness from that as well.
Have you said to him about he'll be coming back, Marvin? Because obviously he's not played a lot since he's been here. Have you spoke to him and said there's a chance I could need you before the end of the
season? Yeah. He's training with the first team squad, and obviously keeping himself ticking over with match fitness from the development team. So, if called upon, he'll be ready anyway, fitness wise.
Okay, that's an interesting one. I think it'll be refreshing for Marvin Comber, but I think he thought he was killing time.
It's such an odd situation, isn't it? The Marvin Comper signing. I think when he first arrived last January, you're looking at his pedigree and thinking this guy will come straight in and do a job, and you've never really seen anything of him. What you had that one cup tie against Morton, and then one other fleeting appearance, I think, somewhere come off the bench, but there's just been nothing, and you wonder, has he had a fair crack of the whip, or has something happened? Has there been something that's gone on? But I suppose for many players coming in and the new broom sweeps clean, is there a clean slate for everyone? The fact he's playing, I think that he's been dogged by injury problems and whatnot, so I think the fact he's fit and playing, he's available, I think there's a curiosity around him that people would maybe like to make their own mind up on him and have a look at him. But I would say too, just while you're talking about Comper, I think the same was maybe could have been said about Jeremy Toljan. I thought Jeremy Toljan came in and played very well at East End Park, at McDermott Park, for his debut there. But over the piece, I'm not sure that there's too much between him and Lustig at all. So sometimes you think people come in with an impressive pedigree, but when you actually get a chance to judge them over a period of games, you're maybe not always convinced.
Yeah, well, you picked that up. Neil Lennon's, it looks as if he's a Lustig fan, Ruffy.
And I'm thinking he's a Scott Allen fan as well. I think he got the best out of Scott Allen at Hibs, and I wouldn't be surprised as the games tick on if we see Scott Allen getting another wee run at, because I think he's the kind of player he likes in the midfield, someone that can see that pass that others can't.
Yeah, I think maybe Joe Filippi could come back in, and Tony Cascarino as well, Ruffy.
Shuggy Edmondson.
Dare I mention to you, Shuggy Edmondson was actually a really good player. I'm just talking about the people who, we've got in our all-time 11 who didn't really make it. Anyway, apart from that, Alec Neil's ruled himself out of the Celtic job, and I think I'm going to rule myself out as well, Ruffy, and you, because I didn't know he was really in the running. I mean, here are the odds. Clearly a journalist has asked him the question. Alec Neil's a good manager, but I don't think he would ever be in the running to be the Celtic boss.
No, I don't think so either. I think it's all in Neil Lennon's hands now. Obviously, the cup and the league, and I think the fans love him. I think that's the biggest one. You know, everybody's talking about, oh, what if he doesn't win the cup? I think the league is a given, but I just think the fans buy into him so much for everything he gives to the fans. You know, he's their kind of manager, and you don't get many of them about.
Yeah. Okay. You can give us your view if you think there's anybody who's going to sneak up and steal that job from Neil Lennon. Celtic Aberdeen. We'll get Ruffy and Alison's prediction on that match and the other matches in the Premiership in Scotland over the weekend. That's all coming up. But as ever, we'll have the winner of this week's quiz coming up. Well done to Keir McLaughlin for this week's quiz. It was, of course, the Champions League final of 2005. I remember it with great fondness, Ruffy, because obviously I've got a soft spot for Liverpool. But I don't know if you remember this, Alison, but we were actually, most of the journalistic fraternity who were not actually at the game were taken out on a night out. And we were all we were all slightly the worse for wear, Ruffy, and we couldn't believe it when Liverpool staged the fight back.
Yeah, I think everybody remembers the fight back, but obviously me being a past goalkeeper, I remember the save. I remember the save that he had just before the final. It was absolutely an incredible save that he made. It was a double save. I don't know who it was from, but I just remember him making the save.
Shevchenko.
Was it?
Yeah. Yeah,
superb.
That's a complete anorak for you. I mean, Ali, it was just unbelievable. I mean, Steven Gerrard at his peak, and of course not only the header, but that moment when he just says to all the Liverpool fans, "Come on, the dream's on."
It's extraordinary. It's actually extraordinary to think it was 14 years ago. It made me feel really old. I don't think Steven Gerrard's aged much since in that 14 years, but extraordinary. The whole thing is extraordinary. I remember reading a piece too that he took the cup back. He took the Champions League cup back to his sort of the streets that he grew up in, and he went into his barber, and he was like parading the cup around, and there's something quite romantic about that too. There's an authenticity. There's an authenticity to it that I'm not sure you always get, and I think that comes if you're playing at a club that you grew up and supported, and your family have ties to it. I think there's a real genuine affection to it. It's almost like, come and share in it, come and enjoy the glory of it.
Ruffy did that at Glen Afton. They left the cup out in the street because they'd all forgotten to take it.
Yeah. Is it not another story that the media at that game that night, there was no access to the ground, that you all had to leave the hotel and walk across a field to get into the stadium? Was there somebody had told me that story? But obviously
in Istanbul,
but
I think it's the Atatürk Stadium. I think, if my memory serves me correct, but I can't actually confirm that. Ruffy,
maybe it was somebody had too much. That
suggested that story. I'm not going to prolong it, Ruffy, because obviously you've taken the programme off at a tangent we don't really want to get down. But nevertheless, 2005, and well done for our competition. It'll be back on Monday for the full week, and a chance for you to win yourself another prize. Okay, Celtic Aberdeen, Ruffy, any slip-ups, or is this just the march on to the title?
Well, I think Aberdeen coming into Glasgow now, I don't know why, but they're beginning to feel a wee bit more confident, obviously, with some of the results they've had against Rangers, but that's not... Celtic's not Rangers, Celtic have the ability to let you think you're going to win at home, and then all of a sudden somebody pops up with something spectacular. For me, Aberdeen would have to notch first, and Celtic would have to have an off day.
Yeah, here's Neil Lennon on the opposition.
I don't know if they'll have one eye on Tuesday as well, but knowing Derek, he's a brilliant manager, and he'll have something up his sleeve for us, I'm sure. But again, we've done a lot of work on Aberdeen and how they play against us in previous games, and what we have to do to overcome what will be, a difficult hurdle. But if we win, then it's just ticking off another game and going forward.
There was a time, Alison, I can remember it, as a youngster, where Aberdeen could come down to Ibrox and Celtic Park and turn them over.
Yeah, absolutely. In the 80s, I think it would have been a really fraught fixture. Even at times, Celtic going to Pittodrie is quite hard, but I'd struggle to remember a time when Celtic of late have really struggled at home to Aberdeen. And I think there's too much going on.
Are you discounting
tomorrow.
the last game?
Apart from the last
are you
game
just
is-
no? But I presume you're just thinking that Celtic had put the tools away. They
Yeah,
won
exactly.
The league.
It's like a game where something is genuinely at stake. But you think tomorrow there's so much going on. You've got Lennon going back really for the first time and back into the home dugout. I think you've come over the hump of a really difficult week in terms of going to Tynecastle and going to Easter Road and coming away with the 2 wins. I think you can genuinely think you're probably on the home straight in terms of the league.
Okay. What about the Lanarkshire derby, folks? Because congratulations first of all to Stephen Robinson and Jake Hastie, manager and player of the month. I think well deserved. But Ruffy, I think if Rangers pull off this as a pre-contract, as I think Gareth Law of The Sun reported this morning, then, fair play to them, because I think he really is a hot prospect. Jake Hastie's got a fantastic left peg. That'd be a great bit of business for Rangers.
I think that has to be the way ahead. If you're not going to be splashing £3 and £4 million on ready-made players, you've got to identify young players who you think you can get value for money. He certainly has started off looking if he is going to be that kind of player, and why not take the chance?
No, it's an excellent bit of business if they do it. I think he's looked very promising. I think some of the goals he scored, the quality of the goals, the all-round performances, I think he's really been a standout over the last few games, and I think he would be a superb bit of business if it's correct.
Yeah, 1 defeat in 7 for Motherwell. Obviously that was against Celtic, but against the Hamilton Accies, that Brian Rice is. I think he's got this attitude of, we're going to have a go at times. We're not going to sit in and just resign ourselves to our fate. Everybody predicting they're going down.
I think it's a difficult one to call. I actually think it's one of those games that you look at and you think it could genuinely go either way. I tend to think in derby games, for all that people say, the form book goes out the window, I would tend to think it's the opposite, and the winning team tends to keep that momentum going. So Motherwell would have that on their side, but you don't know. There can be an element of surprise. I think it's difficult to predict, but I think just over the piece and the way that Motherwell are playing, you would probably anticipate that they would come out of it on top.
Yeah, do you agree with Ali?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Motherwell just for the case that these young players that you've mentioned there, the young ones that have come into Motherwell are absolutely playing with a lot of confidence and scoring goals, and I think they'll just edge this one.
Okay, Dundee against Hearts. Now, I had a wee chat with Jim McIntyre at Firhill. He was watching the game against Hearts in the Scottish Cup, Ruffy, and he thinks that they've got enough there to get them away from either a playoff or relegation. He's fairly confident of that. Sometimes I think, Kenny Miller just needs to chip in with a couple of more goals. I think Andrew Nelson is the top player for him.
Yeah, I think the boy for Aberdeen is a big player as well.
Scott Wright.
Yeah, we tried to get him early on in the season. We obviously wanted to try and get a first team with Aberdeen. It never happened. I think he'll be a big player. But these are the kind of games you need to pick up points before the split, because the split's going to be so tight.
Yeah, Hearts have signed Aidy White on a free transfer. He hasn't been in football for quite a fair bit of time, but they managed to get him back involved. He's a left back in his cover. I noticed Craig Whiten said he reckons he could step into the void left by Stevie Naismith. I thought he was a hot prospect at Dundee, but he just seems to have gone off the boil.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think Stephen Naismith's loss is huge for Hearts. Not just his presence on the pitch, but I just think he's such a big character for them. I think he's a difficult role to go in and step into his shoes in any case, whether or not you're fully fit and whether or not you're fully on it. I just think he's such an important player for them in terms of what he gives them.
Yeah, okay. Who's winning that one?
I'm going to go for Dundee to kink lumps at them. And hopefully there's a few injuries the hard side.
I have to tell you, there's always an angle, Ali, with him. Livingston St Johnstone, oh God, I don't think that's going to be a classic. No disrespect. I'm edging on the side of St Johnstone.
Plastic pitch as well.
Yeah.
I don't know, if St Johnstone don't have a goalie, then it might make life a bit easier for Livingston, but...
Tammy will be all right. Well, surely.
He'll be fine.
Just tell him to go and don't touch anything, don't iron, don't come downstairs quickly.
Go straight in. I think Livingston actually might win that one.
I sit in the fence one for me, one each.
Yeah, okay, and there you are, Ruffy. And of course, let's not forget St Mirren against Kilmarnock. Well done to Kelly. They've got Scott Boyd on a new deal, Ali, till 2020.
I think Kilmarnock have really been the surprise package all season, haven't they? The manner of which they're doing things on and off the park looks right, tying young players up in long-term contracts, going out, but they've been very consistent. I think a few of us maybe anticipated that what would happen is you have a good start to the season, you get to Christmas, and then the lack of depth starts to show itself and you fall away. But I think they've been excellent. I think that regardless of what happens between now and the end of the season, you'd have to applaud what they've done.
Yeah, are you going for them?
Yes.
If St Mirren don't win this one after that late winner, I think they might be in a bit of trouble.
Okay. Is you on about the late winner against Livingston?
Yeah.
I've had to finish all your sentences and the players that you're thinking about, Ruffy.
I'm going to go for St Mirren. I'm going to take a chance with St Mirren.
Okay, because you're so far behind in the predictor, it defies belief. We're going to dedicate this show to Alison McConnell because it's International Women's Day, Ali, which is not why we brought you in here, just basically because you're one of the boys. It's the highest compliment I can pay you. We don't treat anybody any differently on this programme. Thanks to Ali, thanks to Ruffy. Join us Monday to Friday if you can. We're always talking football, and the good news is most of the programme today has been all about what's happening on the pitch. We didn't mention any of the skullduggery off the pitch. Go to the game, enjoy it, and go home safely.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.